Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and good morning to Madam Hazwani and my fellow classmates. Today, my group and I, we are going to present about the next topic, which is Material Requirement Planning, or known as MRP. Okay, first of all, I would like to introduce our group members. The first one is Nur Shafiqah binti Safami, which is me. Next one, Nur Hazwani Azrin binti Azizuddin, Nadia Hazirah binti Mazlidin. The next one, Nurul Ifan binti Arif. And the last one, Nasuha binti Muhammad Nizam. Okay, before we proceed to have a further understanding on the material requirement planning, here is a brief explanation about the inventory management and the quality of services. So, inventory management is an important factor for any business size should consider whether it is a small size company or the big one. So now we went to review the inventory, how much to buy, at what price to pay, and as well as at what price to sell is such a difficult decision to be made without having a proper system. So we have to know that the inventory itself playing an important role in the operations because it may give a direct effect to the company's profit. So without having a proper system, we can tell that it may give a bad impact to the company's performance. For example, a manufacturing firm may face a higher inventory cost due to overstocking and hence they have to bear more cost on the storage cost and the warehouse cost. So the most important things we should know is that the inventory management itself is actually refers to the management of the raw materials, components, finished product as well as warehouse and processing such items. Basically, it is not that the company only required to manage the raw materials only, but they are obligated to manage the finished product as well as the delivery services that will be made by them. So we should think that it is necessary to manage the inventory with having a proper system because we know that each business and exists in the company, exists in the industry with the intention to earn more profit, to sustain their position in the industry, and to ensure their marketability while satisfying their customers. Therefore, inventory management itself is very important because the company may ensure to have a lower cost, lower production cost, and they will increase their cash flow because we know that we spend the money on the inventory that will be sold. So we should know that we should earn more revenue in the business. Last but not least, it is necessary to measure the quality of services provided by the company to determine whether the company has succeeded in the industry or not. So by delivering the order item in time is such an important factor to measure whether the company has satisfied their customers or not, to earn the customers' loyalty and to sustain their position in the current industry. So, without having a proper, without having a further argument, to balance the risk of having an excessive or shortage of raw materials or shortage of inventory, we will proceed to introduce one suitable method, which is material requirement planning. Okay, next, what is material requirement planning? So basically, material requirement planning is a computer-based inventory management system which helps the firms to increase the productivity. So by how? This system may assist any companies by estimating the quantities of raw materials and scheduling the delivery activities. So this system has been designed by three questions, which are what is needed, how much is needed, and when it is needed. And based on these three questions, it has indicated that what materials are needed, how many, and when to fulfill the required demand. And this system helps to assist the firm to have an efficient and effective production schedule. So instead of that, MRP also has its own objective. There are three objectives by applying this system, which is the first one, it is to ensure that materials, components, and products are available for scheduled manufacturing and customer delivery. The second one is MRP is established to maintain the smallest amount of inventory possible. And then the last one, it is to ensure that a company is capable of planning the manufacturing, delivery, and as well as purchasing activities. Next, I will proceed to Azuri as the next presenter.
Prior to the widespread use of computer-engineered systems in the business world, inventory was recorded by hand. However, as time passed, it was discovered that this method was inefficient. MRP evolved later as a result of a desire for increased control, precision, and efficiency in essential manufacturing operations such as inventory and production management. Starting from 1950, MRP was first computerized by aero engine makers associated with General Electric and Rolls-Royce. Before MRP became commercialized, it was reinvented to use a Polaris program. So in 1960, IBM's engineer Joseph Orlicki developed and formalized MRP after he studied the Toyota production system. MRP then was released to specific individual businesses, being used first by Black & Decker Company. 1970, MRP also received a major boost from the educational efforts of the American Production and Inventory Control Society, APICS. They became the main source of MRP education and certification. 1980s, MRP was developed into MRP2 by Oliver White as an extension of MRP to make it more effective for companies. MRP2 covers broader aspects such as invoicing, payroll, capacity planning, and shop floor control. And then in 1990s, Enterprise Resource Planning (ERP) arises, which is an extended form of MRP2. ERP is a software that shares information that interrogates all areas of the company. ERP quickly expanded into other industries that did not need an MRP component. However, MRP is still an important part of the ERP software used by manufacturers. There are three inputs of MRP. First is bill of material, which is a detailed list of raw materials, components, and assemblies required to construct, manufacture, or repair a product or service. So take for example a bicycle manufacturer that wants to build 1,000 bicycles. A bill of material for a bicycle will include all the parts that make up for the bicycle, such as seats, frames, wheels, everything including the quantities required of each component and their cost. Second is inventory status file. It contains important real-time information on the company's inventory. It lets managers know what they have on hand, where the inventory is, and the overall status of the inventory. Lastly is the Master Production Schedule (MPS), which is simply the quantity and timing of all end goods to be produced over a specific time period. So in other words, MPS decides what product are being manufactured and when the product is being manufactured. And it is estimated through customer orders and demand forecasts.
Hi, my name is Nadia Hazira and I am the next presenter. Okay, so next I will explain about how MRP works. MRP is a system designed for ordering and tracking the materials needed to create a product. MRP, they calculate the raw materials needed during the manufacturing process using the bill of materials, the BOM, inventory data, and master production schedule. A key data source in MRP is the bill of materials, which in the BOM, they outline all of the items required to create a product. And in the BOM, the list of items, it can be categorized into two categories, which are the first, dependent demand, and then we have independent demand. MRP system will monitor and manage all of these dependencies as well as estimating the quantity required by the master production schedule. The raw materials and then the components required to create a product is what we call as dependent demand, while the final output is independent demand. And manufacturers, they calculate the number of finished goods based on confirmed orders, market circumstances, and previous sales and other indications. And only after that, they can come up with the forecast and estimate how many to produce to meet the predicted demand. Another key data source in MRP is lead time. MRP system calculates a lot of lead times. However, some are manually set by operation managers. Lead time is the time between placing an order and receiving the item. There are many types of lead time, but the most common are material lead time, which is the time it takes to order the materials and to receive them. And then we have factory lead time, which is the time to make and then ship after all the materials are in. And then the period between the customer's order until the final delivery is what is referred to as customer lead time. So basically, how MRP actually works, it is designed to answer these three questions. What is needed, how much is needed, and when it is needed. Okay, so next we will look into the steps in MRP. Basically, in MRP, we can break down into 4 basic steps. The first one is we identify the customer demands and the raw materials needed to produce the good. MRP system will break down the demand into specific raw materials using the bill of materials that consists of list of materials needed to produce the end product. The second step is to check the demand against the inventory and allocate resources. This phase involves where they will compare the demand with what they currently have on hand so that MRP will assign the inventory to the precise areas where it is required. The third step is the production scheduling, where in this phase they will calculate the amount of time and labor required to complete the manufacturing process. There is also a time limit in this phase. Last step in MRP is monitoring the whole process. This step is actually crucial because it will inform the managers if there is any delays or problems during the manufacturing process.
Now, I will be presenting about MRP in manufacturing. For manufacturers, inventories of raw material hold a huge impact on their production process. Raw material are the most expensive element, of course, and it have a direct impact on the business revenue. This issue may seem normal and unimportant. However, there are some manufacturers that face challenges in handling their materials. Hence, it explains why MRP is widely adopted, especially in manufacturing and small to medium-sized businesses. Okay, now let us take a look at the application of MRP in real-life industry. As we all know, manufacturers want their business to operate efficiently and effectively, so they have decided to use MRP system in their business. For example, here we have chosen Paddock Gear and Engineering Limited, and it is a company that supplies a component to a blue chip organization in the power transmission industry. Paddock is one of the manufacturers that have used MRP software in their business, as their area of work requires an exceptionally high level of product quality and strict quality control. The founder and managing director, Mr. McLeod, has realized that as the company grew, it was difficult for them to keep track of jobs on the shop floor. Okay, so what is the main issue that was faced by Paddock Company? As the company grew to increase supply, the quality control of the production process was affected, and the company's director was unable to determine if their business was profitable or not. The worst scenario that happened to Paddock, according to the managing director, Mr. McLeod, is that he has to work for more than 12 hours a day, and it is a great chance actually for the company to have a high demand, but due to the ineffective production system, he needs to help with the production, managing the product, monitoring quality procedures, and entertaining clients. Luckily, Paddock has responded to this problem professionally as they have decided to implement the MRP system. The effect after the implementation of MRP system in Paddock Company. First, from the information aspect, all the key information regarding manufacturing, such as location and cost of a project, was accessible easily. Second is from the flow of process. Paddock was satisfied with the result after the changes in production process of the implementation of MRP, since they managed to reduce workload and work efficiently. Third, they managed to reduce costs. Paddock saved money, and the director has mentioned that MRP has saved them from hiring additional 2 full-time staff to work in planning and production control, which probably cost them around 25,000 pounds sterling per year each person.
Now, let's look at the types of data considered in MRP. These are several data that must be considered in an MRP scheme. The first one is an item. The MRP system requires the user to describe what type of product is being created and its specific demand level. This is sometimes called independent demand or level 0 in bill of materials. Second, quantity. The system requires the user to enter the quantity required to meet certain demand schedules, how much product is needed to meet demand, when is it required. And the third one is shelf life. The length of time a product can be stored in a warehouse is required for the planning aspect of an MRP system. Also, the fourth one, inventory records, records of net materials that are already in stock on hand and materials that are on order from suppliers. The fifth one is planning data, restrictions and instructions for producing items such as labor, machine standards, quality and testing standards, lot sizing techniques, commands, and other inputs. 6. Bills of materials. The system necessitates detailed records of the materials and components used to create each product. Now let's move on to benefits of material requirement planning. The first one is purchase planning. Knowing what is available, what to buy, and when to buy is also critical to streamlining the production process. It necessitates the use of an intelligent system to track production steps and identify any required purchases while comparing them to the production schedule and expected material deliveries. Procurement managers set up MRPs to automatically contact suppliers when a purchase is required. Second is economic purchasing. The method considers the quantity and cost of materials required, as well as the cost of shipping, storage, and transportation to determine the most cost-effective purchase to meet demand. MRP system accurately and cost-effectively optimize purchases, saving the producer money on wasteful purchases. The third one is time saving. MRP systems are completely automated and require very little human input. This saves a significant amount of time that would otherwise be spent on inventory, procurement, and production management. This system's accuracy far exceeds that of any error-prone human method. Next, we listed the usefulness and limitations of implementing MRP. For usefulness, the first one is assurance that materials and components will be available when needed. Also, minimize inventory levels and costs associated, optimize inventory management, and reduce customer lead times. While for limitation, heavy reliance on input data accuracy, MRP systems can often be difficult and expensive to implement, lack of flexibility when it comes to the production schedule, and also introduces the temptation to hold more inventory than needed. Next, material requirements planning versus enterprise resource planning. It can be difficult to distinguish between these two systems. They do, however, differ in a number of ways that affect how they are employed in an organization. Let us examine some of the most significant differences. The first one, standalone versus integrated. MRP being standalone, being more of a solo software with only manufacturing accessories, while ERP can easily connect to other software modules, and it integrated and provides multiple functions in one unit. In differences of functionality, MRP designed to progressively increase inventory efficiency in a business through control of manufacturing, scheduling, and purchasing, while ERP provides financing, manufacturing, supply chain, purchasing, selling, and planning in one single system. The differences of cost, MRP is typically less expensive, while ERP typically more expensive because it performs function for multiple facets of a business rather than just manufacturing.
Okay, through this topic, what we can conclude is that material requirement planning system definitely will assist the manager of the company to make a wise decision, since the features of this system will help them to improve the company's efficiency and effectiveness. Moreover, we can tell that this system will help the manufacturer to avoid incurring a high production cost, since the managers are only required to make a necessary order according to what have been estimated in the production. So we must say that the company will be able to enjoy less production costs, since the inventory control is much easier. Last but not least, this system will enhance the manager's decision-making skills by being able to make a wise decision, since making improper order definitely will make a loss to the company. So, if an appropriate decision is made, surely it will be able or will be more easier to satisfy the customers. That's all from us. Thank you.
Material requirement planning is a system that helps manufacturers plan, schedule, and manage inventory during manufacturing process. If you carry more raw materials than needed to meet demand, you would be using the extra money that could be utilized in the other areas of business. However, the lack of raw materials could cause stock-outs, which leads to unfulfilled customer orders and lower customer satisfaction. Material requirement planning helps to deliver product on the right time at optimal cost. MRP matches demand with the product's bill of materials to determine the necessary type and quantity of raw materials and components, as well as the time when the materials are needed. When there's a timely information about the material on hand, you can automate and optimize production, which allows better evaluation of inventory levels and minimize carrying costs. Thus, maximize profit while increasing customer satisfaction.